As I was saying, we are going to begin now. For those of you who know this particular chant, this is the act of going for refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So Buddha, of course, the first reference point is to that Indian prince that lived 2,600 years ago. And that prince, at the age of 35, declared to the world that he is now an awakened one, which is what Buddha means, awake. Awakened from confusion, awakened from delusions. So now he's awake. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, again, the immediate reference point is we're saying, at the very least, we're saying, well, I'm willing to trust that what you said was true. Well, I think at the very least, you need to say, I'm willing to trust that what you said you believe to be true. At the bare minimum, Otherwise, to say I take refuge in the Buddha has no meaning. So you have to say, okay, I trust that at the very least you believe that that's true. Then more importantly, maybe not required, but more importantly, it becomes more meaningful when you say, and the reason I'm now going to you for refuge, which is a fancy way of saying, I'm going to rely on you. Yeah? To go for refuge means to seek someone's protection. A refugee is someone who is dislocated from where they belong, pushed out, forced out, and they are without protection, right? That which is supposed to protect them no longer can offer them protection, which is the rights of a citizen to be protected, at least in theory. So a refugee is someone who has no protection, now going to a source of protection. So we're saying, the second part, I want to rely on you so that I can become like you. Not I want to rely on you so that I can spend eternity serving you. That's not this spiritual tradition. Not dissing other spiritual traditions. Just to be clear, right? Each system has its own kind of internal logic. All I'm asking is you get this internal logic. You don't need to convert to this logic. That's entirely up to you at whatever degree that you want and can accept. But this internal logic here is saying, I'm going to you, I'm going to rely on you so that I can become like you. So this is taking refuge in the Buddha. Taking refuge in the Dharma. The Dharma, the immediate context is those teachings that the Buddha taught. And he says, by following these teachings, you can become like me. And so that's the immediate reference for Dharma. But the more important reference for Dharma is to rely on that which is true, which is also what Dharma means, the truth, right? The truth. Now here, I often like to caution people, let's not be so quick to declare our allegiance to some capital T truths. Often in religion, for sure in religion, right? And then even in spirituality, capital T truths are like really important. Some of you are old enough to remember, spiritual or religious books, especially the alternative ones, that would break all kinds of capitalization rules. They'll capitalize every fourth word. to show that this is really important. So here, why I say be a little shy about these capital T truths, not because there's no capital T truths, but it's easy to make what we think to be capital T truths into, as Christians will say, false gods. Like idolatry. That means we become dogmatic. And that a certain type of belief, more than it's the truth, it's what gives me my identity. Right? That's how quickly religion and even spirituality turns into something else than what it was meant for, which is to truly transform us from self-centeredness to other-centeredness. Transform us from being under the power of what last week I was referring to as the three poisons: ignorance, attachment, aggression. Removing these three poisons and be done with them. So don't yet quickly say, oh, this is the capital T truth. And so I sometimes joke, but there's some seriousness to it. I said, we have heard of the Four Noble Truths, right? Most of us maybe, right? I've heard of the main teaching of the Buddha is known as the Four Noble Truths. I said, a better way to approach these Four Noble Truths is to say the Four Noble, some of you know that, what? Rumors. The Four Noble Rumors. So, not fake news, because they're noble, right? So, for some reason that you cannot explain, you feel they are noble. So, they are valuable, right? But they are rumors. Why are they rumors? What's rumor? Literally, what's rumor? Another word for rumor? Hearsay. So it's okay if the Four Noble Truths right now, which the Buddha declared to be the Four Noble Truths, right now is not just, but very importantly, it's the Four Noble Rumors. I have heard this, right? You need to verify these rumors before they become truths for you. Otherwise, these are false gods, right? Otherwise, again, it's like a identity badge that you wear, right? We have the secret handshake. We're in the Buddha club now, like the cool club. Not like those other people who belong to other clubs, right? And then from innocently something like this, right? People can like maim and kill and burn in the name of capital T truths. Which war wasn't fought on the basis of someone believing that this is capital T truth? Really? Right? Can you name me one war where it wasn't fought because some people strongly and firmly believe this is the capital T truth, and we have to defend that at all costs? So don't treat the Dharma yet as capital T truth until and unless you have verified these rumors to be true. At that point, I'm not concerned that you will go maim and kill and burn in the name of the Dharma, because if you really verify those rumors as truth for yourself, it will change you from, again, self-centeredness to other-centeredness, from being under the power of the three poisons to being free from the three poisons. Taking refuge in the Dharma. Sangha. Sangha here can mean a gathering of like-minded people. Like here tonight, we could say we are a Sangha. In the Buddha's own time, Sangha was a common word, in fact, used in more around professional groups. Guilds, the blacksmiths, they formed a Sangha. The woodworkers, they formed a Sangha, a guild. But here, when we say, I take refuge in the Sangha, we are referring to a more limited in a way. It seems to be working. Oh, it stopped. I don't like this lapel pin business. I've said this before. Let's research and invest in one of those things. And otherwise, I feel like I have to. Okay. Oh. I'm not Italian. I don't have to talk with my hands, so I can just hold it up here. So here, when we say take refuge in Sangha, we're talking about taking refuge in those individuals, not like specific individuals, but more like a community of those who have experienced the Dharma, who has applied the Dharma, to a degree, at the very least, more than me. But if you want to be more technical, they said they have applied the teachings to a point where they have reached certainty that they will not fall back into confusion anymore. And that's how they become reliable guides, Sangha. Now, it's not as if they are like, these people are issued, certification cards. So we're not literally saying, walking around looking for, oh, are you reliable? Are you reliable? It's more like the principle that there is reliable guidance from people who have practiced this to a degree of certainty, or at least to a degree more than I have. And so I can seek them out. It's not necessarily talking about one individual, more that there is a body of this community that I rely on. And so that's taking refuge in the Sangha. Good. In the Buddha Dharma Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi, the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wondering beings. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. Merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wondering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wondering beings. Thank you. In this book that we are sort of relying on, we're not exactly doing a book run. I'm not going over the book page by page. In fact, maybe as a disclaimer, please don't think that everything that I say, the author of the book, Ajahn Sucitto, would agree with. I don't want to misrepresent. And I'm also not speaking on behalf of the book. So perfectly, it's it shouldn't shock you, if you read in a book and you're like, well, that's not what I heard in class. Well, two different opinions. Yeah. I don't pretend to represent the book at all, but I find the book to be really helpful. Books, people don't have to be perfect before, they can help us gain better understanding of things. Yeah. So in this book, there is a chapter where it talks about the role of, for lack of a better word, I guess you could say, religious conventions or acts of devotion. Maybe not even religious conventions, but the role of ritualized acts of devotion. He invites us to see the value of that. Because in a way, it's a way of connecting the heart with the brain, so to say. And so in chapter 1 that I said, from last week, I'm trying to read at least some, if not all, of chapter 1. There he articulates there are many words in Buddhist psychology, so to say, in the Buddhist understanding of the mind and the workings of the mind and emotions. There are many different words that we in English more or less just translate as mind. At most, maybe we have consciousness, right? But there are actually many different Buddhist terms. And sometimes even these terms are used not always with the same meaning. And you say, well, why is this so confusing? Because even though sometimes we say, oh, the Buddha wasn't a prophet, wasn't a god, then we say, well, he was a philosopher. Wrong. Buddhism is a philosophy. Wrong. Why? Because he wasn't a philosopher. He wasn't sitting around thinking deep thoughts about giving you a map of the world, yeah, where everything kind of coheres, right? That wasn't what the Buddha was doing. The Buddha was called the supreme physician, the supreme healer. He healed people of the disease of suffering. And so he did not sit down to compose treatises. And so that he has to say, well, in book 1, I use this word this way, so book 2, I should use the word the same way, and under all conditions, the same way. Now, that became the job of generations of Buddhists that came after. So for sure, Buddhist philosophy developed. Yeah? But I would say what the Buddha taught, not philosophy. In fact, famously, there were people who came to him that wanted to do philosophy with him. So raising a bunch of metaphysical questions. Is this universe eternal or not eternal? Does this universe have a beginning or not have a beginning? Deep thoughts. He refused to answer. And so his attendant said later, when this guy left, disappointed, his attendant said, why didn't you answer those questions? Because his attendant was pretty sure that he could answer those questions. So at least from a Buddhist standpoint, we say the Buddha knew everything, right? That one of the qualities of the Buddha is they are all-knowing. So at least as an article of faith, I said the Buddha knows everything. So like the attendant was like, well, surely you know those answers. And this is what's interesting, the Buddha says. Well, that's beside the point. Yeah. I mean, he didn't use those words, but effectively he says, that's beside the point. And so the attendant said, so what's the point? Like, why didn't you answer? He said, because he came looking to philosophize, to debate. I'm not interested in that. But whenever anyone came to him suffering and say, what do I do with this pain? Very patiently, he would teach that person. He would walk through. So he was a healer. Of course, his art of healing, you could derive a set of theory, right? Principles, philosophical statements. Yes, afterwards, Buddhist descendants did that. Lots of it. Many, many books, commentaries and sub-commentaries. But fundamentally, what he taught is to heal. Now, what he taught can, if we don't distinguish from what developed later, not bad, what developed later, quite necessary, I think, because if you are going to keep up with the Joneses, and there were the Joneses, right? The other spiritual traditions. Otherwise, people don't even pay attention to you. Right? So no choice. Buddhists have to do that. Right? But then it's fine. And it's even helpful. But we don't need to approach the Buddha's teachings that way. So the words, right? I have all these long footnotes, This is like a habit from graduate school. My graduate advisor says if the book has more footnotes than text, it's probably a good one. Others may disagree, but I went along with that, and to this day, I think that imprint is still there. So anyway, coming back, 2 words in chapter 1, where Ajahn Sucitto says, there's this word called manas, and there is this word called chitta. Both words have to do with the mind. But the way he articulates it, if I got it right, he says that manas is the objective, kind of the external aspect of the mind. And chitta is the subjective side. Yeah, chitta is the subjective side. Where devotional practices come in is the skillful bridging of the subjective and the objective. It's something soft. It's something even irrational. As much as the Buddha encouraged clear seeing, and in that sense, values rationality, but not rationality for its own sake. Sometimes we can be so rational, but completely broken. So even to be rational, to be clear, has an objective in mind, And that objective, again, is to be free from suffering. Back to the healer's concern. So I can say, it's not possible, really. Right? You will give up if you are not nourished in some form by devotion. Now, I'm not saying that you need to pick up this specific expression of devotion. It's available here. Heaven Dharma is open for business, so to say. But you need to find, You need to find what resonates with you to nourish that heart part, and not just the intellect part. Both parts are important, actually, in Buddhist practice. Sometimes some Buddhists will pretend that the other part is not important. It's part of like their style, right? To say it's not important until it becomes like, their main identity. The intellect is not important. In fact, you should go beyond the intellect. Right? Typically, like Zen people are like that. But they're probably some of the most heady people that you'll ever meet. Deeply, very philosophical. So maybe they need that medicine more. But both the intellect and the heart needs to be brought together in order to really kind of make progress on this particular path. Because it's not a short sprint, it's the long haul. Last week I said, if you think, you can just very quickly have this instant enlightenment and everything will change, that's just salesmanship. Buddhists are not beyond good salesmanship. So salesmanship is not yet bad. Depends on the motivation. So last week we talked about depends on intention. But of course, intention and motivation is also not so simple. Right? It's what we innocently think to be, whoa, I didn't mean it. Sometimes it's just not looking deep enough to see exactly what's going on. So the types of deception and self-deception. And the self-deception, by the way, we all have varying degrees of that and varying forms of that. But again, remember from last week, it's not because you are bad people. It's not because we are bad. No, it's just programming and patterning. So that's the habituation. We have habituated mostly habits of suffering. So last week I talked about how suffering, we should try to see how suffering is not something that just happens to you. Although it certainly feels that way. I'm suffering. It just happened to me, and looking bewildered and, why, what did I do? One of the most powerful things the Buddha taught is that suffering is something that we pick up. So remember the caveat, right? There's a footnote there too, right? Please don't use this on other people. And also don't use it on yourself, because you think to be spiritual, you have to beat yourself, with shame and blame. No, that's also not how you're supposed to do. To take to heart this point, suffering is something that we participate in. And it's not meant to be bad news, it's meant to be good news. Because what you participate in, you can also sign out of. Now, again, no instant cure, because habit patterns are very strong. So we have to re-habituate, to habituate differently. So the word that we translate as meditation in in the original Indic languages, whether Pali or Sanskrit, is the word bhavana. Bhavana. Bhavana is related to the word bhava. Bhava is the word that we in Buddhist like books sometimes I think too mistakenly I think translated as life. So you've seen the wheel of life, right? With kind of this big monster, clutching this wheel of life, and then inside there is the realms of existence. I think it's a mistranslation. That's a pretty bleak view of what life is. Wheel of life, It's bhava chakra. Chakra is wheel. No further nuances needed for that. Chakra is wheel. But bhava, in the bhava chakra, in that representation, is more accurately, it should be translated as becoming. The wheel of becoming. And what that connotes is, as long as we are in this endless becoming, right? In contrast to what? Being. Then it's suffering. Cannot disappear. Suffering is not optional. But there's another mode of existing where it's being. Then suffering is optional. Then suffering is optional. So bhavana is related to the word bhava, but it's here. This other sense of becoming is you shape. If you want to become something, right, you have to shape it. You have to build it. You have to form it. So bhavana here, in the Buddha's own time, it's been pointed out, was actually an agricultural term that we today can accurately translate it as to cultivate. Like farmers cultivating the field. So that's what Buddhist meditation is about. It's about cultivating. Cultivating what? Cultivating a set of skills and sensibilities. Sensibilities is insight, clear understanding, what we call right view. Sensibilities, the clear sensibilities, like the heart is clear. The heart is not confused. Now, the heart is clear, the heart is not confused, doesn't solve everything yet, but it's a very important start. You also need the skills. Last week I said, I can say it myself. I dare claim I have the sensibilities of a Buddhist. But I don't have the skills yet of a Buddha. So still need to develop those skills. So at least now I can see the train wreck that I just started. And also cannot figure out, where to pull the brakes. But at least frantically running up and down looking for it. But no skill yet, So developing the skills is what bhavana is about. Developing the skills and of course also developing the sensibilities. cultivating both the skills and the sensibilities, going hand in hand, which is what karma is about. Karma is intentional actions. And intentional actions, now in that book, Ajahn Sucitto's book, chapter 1, he says the Buddha taught that there are basically four, generally speaking, four types of karma. Four types of karma. Dark, heavy, burdensome actions. What are they? Yes, we have a list. Buddhists have lists. Other people have God or gods. We have lists. Other people struggle with God. We struggle with lists. We have lists, and these lists can be really helpful. But at this point, without burdening you or scaring you away with lists, more directly, try to pay attention to when you do certain things. No one needs to tell you why. You feel the weight. You feel the heaviness. You feel the burden. Now, doesn't always mean that's bad, okay? Not yet. Because sometimes, right, in programming your habits, because you're rubbing up against the grain, right? It can feel that way. So not yet. But when you feel the weight, when you feel the heavy, and especially when you feel the dark, right? Then turn your attention to it and say, is this an unskillful action? Regardless of, do I have a right? Is this justified? Did someone provoke me? All those are just conditions. Not to say that there's not a time and place where those things you need to make clear. Often I've said, engaging in Buddhist practice is not turning yourself into a doormat so that everyone walks on that. No. But at the same time, if you get distracted by, well, I have a right to feel this way, I was provoked, yeah? And if you think that the main difference that you're going to make in your life is, right, chasing down all those things, well, good luck. Bless your heart. I'll pray for you. There are reasonable things we should do there. I'm not down there. The main part is to see on this end of things, right? And this goes back to, we participate in suffering. So the first thing we can do is to say, at least in theory, to say, I don't want to participate. So that's a good sensibility. Now skills. So there's dark, heavy, burdensome action. Then there's bright, light, freeing action. And even that, right, to nuance that a bit, don't quickly say, yes, this is what I should do. Not yet, because sometimes we have become such jerks, that we don't realize, what was so good actually only appears to be so. So also need to pause and say, wait, is it? Yeah. So that's good. But generally, there's definitely dark, heavy, burdensome actions. And if you want lists, simple list: killing, stealing, exploiting others, especially in a sexual way. All those are heavy. All those are dark. And this is not cultural, the Buddha says. In his second view, where he saw it happening universally to everyone. This is not subjective. It doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter where. All these are dark karma. Lying, deceptive speech, divisive speech, using speech to pitch one against the other, sow dissension for your own benefit, destructive speech, words spoken with the intention to harm, to hurt. Of course, Buddha also says, he's not saying that we should walk around, not saying, not doing anything. Sometimes, no matter what you do, someone is going to be hurt. Right? You cannot walk around like, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone, right? But don't harm. Don't harm anyone. Speech that is harmful. Then speech that is distracted. And so these are, harmful, negative, unskillful karma. Then there's skillful karma, which is two. One, even making the decision of not doing the unskillful is a type of bright karma. Yeah. So often, we feel like, in religion, somehow, right? All the bad things are doubly more powerful than the good things. Right? Like all the good that I've done, one bad, everything wiped out. But seems like not all the good, all the bad I've done, one good will wipe it out. Unless it's accepting Jesus as a person. Then that kind of, according to that system, takes everything away. But other than that, there's no, it's always, it seems like the bad stuff always wins, But here actually, in terms of skillful action, just making the decision, I'm not going to lie in this situation. And this situation, and this situation, this situation, that is an act of brightness. That choosing to abstain from causing harm, from killing, from stealing, is a bright karma. And then, furthermore, practicing the opposite of that. Instead of killing, we support life. Instead of stealing, we engage in generosity, a magnanimous heart, and so on and so forth. And all those are bright. Then he says the third kind of karma is what sometimes is called mixed. Yeah, mixed. And mixed is mixed because it's hard for us to see. Yeah. Sometimes. It's not that the actions themselves are mixed. They're all frozen. Oh, let me drink some. Breathe in, breathe out, which I'm assuming you've been doing for. Are we still in Bardo?
He spotlighted us, so the Javier's still there.
I think waiting for them to come back. Perhaps.
I think it's.
I think they can.
This is.
Should I ask?
Yes,
It's okay now. Yes.
people are back, more or less. So the third type is mixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fourth type is liberating, freeing karma. For karma to be freeing karma, to be liberating karma, is the kind of action that is not merely the second one, bright, yeah, but bright and directed to becoming free. Not just bright, but bright and directed to the goal of becoming free from the three poisons. And that's what we mean by ending karma, like the title of the book, Karma at its End, right? Last week I said, we should not think of ending karma in some ways that sometimes it has been expressed. Like when you are enlightened, you're beyond karma. Right? Even that notion, right? If it is attractive to you, like when you are enlightened, you are beyond karma, right? What does that say about what's going on? Doesn't that say, I want get out of jail card that I can use perpetually? So beyond karma means beyond the kind of karma, beyond the kind of intentional actions that is tainted by the three poisons, any of the three poisons. And so last week also we talked about, right? The definition of good and bad in the Buddhist context is absence or presence of the three poisons. Yeah. So I want to read to you passages from the sutras, the scriptures. These are the words of the Buddha about karma. So the very first one is, intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one does karma by way of body, speech, and intellect. So those are called the three doors, because it's through those three doors that karma accumulates. And so intention or motivation determines the quality of the actions of the intellect, of speech, and of physical actions. With the caveat that intention is something not so simple. Because a lot of times, that's where ignorance is hiding. In intentions. It's where ignorance is hiding. It's where habit patterns cover over our innate goodness that I talked about last week and turns it into something else and confuses our ability to see. Where did that come from? Which is intentions that are tainted by the three poisons. So the real goal of Buddhist meditation is to develop again the sensibilities and the skills to see, to catch ourselves going down that circuit that our habits have wired. So many of us, have our own, right, programming. So that, if the outside condition comes, you are way more susceptible to go down a particular route than somebody else. That's your habit pattern. And the real purpose of meditation training is to help us rewire this circuit, reprogram. So the word bhavana, coming back a full big circle, to cultivate. Another word, which is how the Tibetans have translated bhavana, habituate, to become used to. So famously, the founder of the lineage that I'm a part of, Ribungkagyu, the founder of Gyalpa Tenzin, he says, meditation is not meditation. Meditation is getting used to. So even in this time in 12th century, people have all kinds of ideas of what meditation is. Some people thought, meditation is so that you can achieve bliss. Meditation is so that you can, I don't know. I actually have people saying to me, so and so can meditate until he doesn't hear anything anymore. Okay. Well, that's kind of weird. But apparently it's attractive. So we have all kinds of ideas what meditation is. Or even the idea of meditation is so that I feel one with everything. I mean, are we literal about that? Then every time someone takes the lawnmower out, oh my gosh. You know how many cuts? I think paper cut is bad. Wait till you have become one with your lawn. And the gardening guy comes. That's not the goal. Poetically, yes, of course, I'm making fun. Poetically, yes, one with everything, at ease, at peace, yes. Right? But some people actually take it quite literally and think that's the goal of meditation, that I've become one with everything. Well, at least, okay, I can't speak about other spiritual traditions. As far as the Buddha is concerned, meditation is to develop clear seeing. Clear seeing that is not tainted by that ignorance. And to do that again and again and again and again, to habituate, to build up this sensibilities and skills. So it's not really, at least, in this particular understanding, sometimes we say, I can't meditate because my mind is all over the place. Well, as opposed to what? I can meditate because my mind is not all over the place. I mean, that's like saying, right? I'm taking medicine because I'm not sick. What's the point? Because your mind is all over the place. So now, let's do something about this all over the place. Even this all over the place is not yet bad news. Because if you know how to skillfully use all over the place, it becomes useful. It's about sensibilities. Sometimes you will think, to meditate, again, the caricature of meditation, the mind just stays one place. No, it's constantly tweaking. You're adjusting. Oh, it's too tight here. Now feeling a little drowsy. So let me turn my mind to this to uplift it. Oh, now it's getting too distracted. Okay, let me then turn to stabilize it. Yeah. I use the analogy of like driving. When you're stressed, driving is usually terrible. When you're relaxed, driving is usually much better. Well, to a certain point. Yeah. But we all, I mean, those of us who drive, we all have experience, right? These experiences of like being able to drive for hours where you feel like you're completely there. You're not complaining that you are driving. And you're completely aware of everything all around. But you're not stressed. You're also not like single-minded. In fact, you have panoramic mind. You're quite aware of everything that is going on, but your awareness is not stuck on something. You see the signboard, you see that, you see the words, you register, but then pass. Right? And then you are monitoring. Passing traffic, oncoming traffic, traffic on your back, on your side, behind. But you have had those experiences where you don't feel drained. That is also what meditation training is aimed at doing. Now, of course, various aspects of Buddhist meditation has been pulled out of this context to help manage pain, manage stress, manage, anger. All those things are good. I'm not saying that they are misusing. But again, my job is to also show you the bigger program, right? The bigger program that Buddha offered. So here, karma is intention, I tell you. Now, then, I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, related through my actions, and have my actions as my arbitrator. Whatever I do, for good or for evil, to that I fall heir. So this is about recognizing that happiness and suffering, it's in my hands. The unpleasant things that is unfolding now is the results of actions in the past. Yes. But that's not the end of this story, right? Because in this moment, you can also say, but I'm not participating. So at the very least, don't feed. How to do that? Skills that you build up. And this skill that you build up is not necessarily just like this for many hours. In fact, majority of the Buddha's teachings, if you go look at them, don't actually talk about this. In fact, very little that actually tells you how to meditate. Even like the most important text today, used by meditation teachers about, the Buddha taught this about meditation. it's a little vague. So in fact, the Buddha wasn't just focused on meditation. He encouraged us to engage these teachings. Consider this, consider this, consider this, consider this. That's a form of habituating. You know, don't need to buy, your Lululemon, outfit to meditate better.
I
A
like
better
them.
cushion,
They're very comfortable.
accessorizing. I mean, if you want, that's fine too, but that's not the only way to habituate, to re-habituate, to reprogram. What needs to happen for this reprogramming is to saturate. And there's so many ways to saturate your mind with these teachings. Here's the good news. So if you're like, I'm not the meditating kind, that's fine. That's just one of many things that Buddhists do. But everyone, like I think sometimes people say, so are you Buddhist? First thing you think of is like, yeah, but I don't meditate. So, oh, no. Or I have also seen in other cases, people are like, I'm a meditator. I'm like, oh, what for? These are usually people who try to make a living as meditation teachers. So they don't want to say I'm Buddhist because it connotes all kinds of things. Understandable, right? But from another perspective, I'm like, that's really weird. You're a meditator? I guess it's like saying, I'm a driver. It's like, no, I want to get to Boston. As opposed to, I'm a driver. Yeah, I know that's how you get to Boston. Right? So it's not such a big deal to say I'm Buddhist. If you mean it with a small b, right? I'm committed to waking up. And I want to follow this example. I want to wake up. Then it's a lot easier. In a way, it's a lot easier. You don't have to live up to the image of a meditator. I don't fit that image of a meditator. But Buddha is our true identity, to be awake. And that's natural. Karma should be known. The cause by which karma comes into play should be known. The diversity in karma should be known. The result of karma should be known. The cessation of karma should be known. The path of practice for the cessation of karma should be known. Thus it has been said. In reference to what was it said, intention, I tell you, is karma. So this is the first part, karma should be known. What is karma? Intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one does karma by way of body, speech, and intellect. And what is the cause by which karma comes into play? Contact is the cause by which karma comes into play. What is contact? Contact is when our mind comes into contact with the objects of sense experiences, as well as a sixth dimension. We have the five normal senses, but there's a sixth dimension, a sixth aspect, which is thoughts. That's considered one of the senses in Buddhist. When Buddhists say six senses, they mean thoughts. So the eye sees colors and shapes. The nose smells odors. The minute the nose smells a smell, that first moment is called contact. Once contact occurs, karma follows. The most subtle karma there is in that first instance when contact occurs, right? And this is precognitive. You either experience a pleasant experience, a painful experience, or a neutral experience. The minute contact happens, it's precognitive. Meaning, you don't even know what it is yet. The Buddha says, even before knowing what it is yet, you don't even know if it is an apple, or an orange, or a Volkswagen. But you already have an immediate experience of, oh, this is, pleasant, pleasurable, painful, or neutral. Then in the next moment, what occurs with regards to the experience of pleasure? Like arises. With regards to that which is painful, dislike arises. With regards to that which is neutral, what arises? And what are these three things? These three reactions: like, don't care. They are different forms of the three poisons. Don't care is ignorance. Like is attachment. Don't like is aversion or aggression. See, right there, karma has already turned up. Context. What is the diversity of karma? There is the karma that is experienced in the hell realm. There is the karma experienced in the realm of common animals. There's the karma to be experienced in the realm of the hungry spirits. There's karma to be experienced in the human world. There's karma to be experienced in the world of the devas, the bright beings, the gods, so-called. And this is called the diversity of karma. And so this is the basic kind of Buddhist cosmology in terms of what exists, not just humans. Animals, of course, we can all see. But then it is said there's also all these others that our normal human eyes can't see. Those in the hell realms, those in the hungry spirits realm, then the demigods, not explicitly mentioned here, and they're grouped together with the bright beings. So this is traditional Buddhist cosmology, but even in the teachings on traditional Buddhist cosmology, the Buddha also says, but even within your life right now as a human being, you go through these states of existence in a day. When you are elated and a little puffed up. That's the experience of the God realm. When you're elated and puffed up, so pride taints the experiences of the gods, the bright beings, because they're so bright. And then they cannot understand. Why are you so sad? Why are you so negative? Puffed up. Demigods are said to be tainted by jealousy. Always. Jealousy. Look at that. Then third, human. Right? So what is characterized by variously? There's a couple. One is kind of ambition. Not exactly, it's a type of desire, but it's ambition. Sometimes it's also described as complacency. A type of laziness. Just cruise along. Everything's fine. Then the animal realm often is literally, they say, is stupidity. But I've met plenty of humans that are definitely more stupid than many animals that I've met. So we're not literally saying that they are stupid, right? Animals, but more to the point, driven by instincts. They have way less possibility of making moral decisions. Like, I should not eat my babies. Yeah, some of them can make, but it's a big challenge when they're really hungry. So they're driven by instincts, controlled by instincts. The hungry spirits, desire, never insatiable desire. In contrast to human, that one is complacent desire. But this one, insatiable. And then the hell realms is anger, resentment, aggression. So we go through these 6 experiences. Where do they come from? The results of our actions. That's the diversity of karma. So then next, what is the cessation? Or what is the result of karma? You know, how does karma, the result of karma comes? It says there are 3, you can divide them into 3 sorts. That which arises right here and now. And that's the most important one. Then that which arises later in this lifetime, and that which arises in future lifetimes. I think it's fair to say if we only think of karma as just here and now, we can also get very frustrated. You know, it's like those of you who remember Seinfeld, you know. Serenity now, serenity now. What's his name? George's dad, right? Costanza's father. Serenity now, serenity now. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah, even like you think I'm creating the karma of serenity. No, it can't happen that way. So also you need to understand sometimes karma ripens later. Sometimes the actions that you're taking now will only bear fruit later. And even beyond that, future lifetimes. For that, you can think of it as it's a way to also understand, right? So if you say it won't ripen until future lifetimes, then by that logic, right, there are experiences happening to you now that you can also say it's due to some junk that I threw upriver, right? And then now I'm downriver, so here it comes, right? And there is a something beneficial from having that understanding, which is now you feel like I'm a good person, or I'm trying to be a good person, right? But then bleep happens. Right? Bleep happens. So when bleep happens, first thing is, of course, try to see if this is karma of here and now, right? Don't so quickly. Oh, definitely past lifetimes. When someone next to you might say, wait, you didn't see how you were a jerk like 5 seconds ago? What is this last lifetime business? So most of us, I mean, most of us Buddhist types, it's very quick to like, oh, this is past lifetime. Meanwhile, people around us are saying, should someone tell him? So first, see, is it, more here and now? And then if this is the training of the mind. Yeah, if you can see that it's truly not the here and now, right? And even as a strategy, you see it as it's the ripening of what was done. What that does, at least for me, I don't know if it works for you this way. For me, then, I don't live in a world where things happen haphazardly. Yeah. So I would say it's a skillful way of giving meaning to what I cannot explain, of course. Right? I cannot explain yet. Right? But to commit to that understanding skillfully is to, more importantly, it shapes how I behave now, and it can shape my future. I cannot tell you I have memories of past lifetimes. I would be lying. Increasingly, I don't remember what I did yesterday. Last life? I don't know. Right? But I choose to believe that because of the positive impact it has on me now. Yeah, that's all I can say. Yes, there are people who say, well, there's research that shows that there is reincarnation, rebirth, blah, 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 right? And there are, there are people studying these, like legitimate studies. I got my PhD from the University of Virginia, the psychology department there, historically and now, has someone seriously engaging in this phenomenon. But of course, they are they're doing it right. All they're saying is we have ruled out all other possible answers, explanations. They're careful to not say, therefore we have proven. Like there are multiple lifetimes. They just say all other reasonable reasons have been ruled out. One time I got someone very annoyed. The engineering department at the university, they want their students whole time, so their engineering students don't get, don't have too many classes to spare for other things. So they have a humanities for engineers class. One class, humanities for engineers. And so there's one section where they talk about religion, So then one section, not just one class, one section, then this professor would always bring, a Buddhist, a professor teaching Buddhism to come. That year, the real professor couldn't do it. I was an advanced graduate student. And so I went to do the class. And then I learned very quickly, the professor that was teaching humanities believed strongly in reincarnation. And then, so she was hoping or expecting that I would say, yep, of course. I said, well, she was very annoyed. Maybe because I was a little cheeky, and she said, Professor Stevenson, in the psychology department, has has all these cases on file, like no other explanation, then of course it's rebirth, this is proof. I said, yeah, but for fundamentalist Christian, it just proves that Satan is at work, planting false evidence, right? So it depends on what prior commitment you come into when you look at the data. Like you say, oh, well, look, dinosaurs. Bible didn't say anything about dinosaurs. Well, for a fundamentalist Christian, well, Satan is busy. I mean, in this room, most of us are like, ha ha ha, what a crazy idea. Hey, don't be so sure. Anyway, I digress. I'm not here to entertain, so I'll defend my digression. I want you to see that even if you find that I cannot believe in this multiple lifetime thing, right? It's not the deal breaker here. There's something very powerful about these teachings about multiple lifetimes. And also, when you actually engage in this kind of deep work, right? What this belief in multiple lifetimes does is it opens up the field so that it's not so claustrophobic. You don't feel like, it's now or never. Then the more you practice, the more nervous you get. Then the more you feel like, I'm such a failure. And then you're just doing it all wrong. Yeah, I often have so many people telling me, well, I need to practice harder. No, that's just feeding your type A American thing. Just relax. I mean, I also have a lot of people who think when the spiritual practice is just relaxing. The word discipline has been scraped, from their vocabulary. Anything that involves discipline is artificial. It also doesn't work that way. But the answer is not practice harder. That's just banging your head against the wall. That's just feeding some kind of not liking yourself, wanting to punish yourself, all the programming, our karmic baggage. You're never going to undo your karmic baggage by feeding your karmic baggage, but dressed up in Buddhist robes. It's still chom chom tasty to those demons. It's not going to work. So the basic view has to change. And those are the sensibilities. When you change those basic views, basic understanding, keep working on that. And to work on that, if you cannot focus for 10 minutes on one thing, don't worry, it's fine. Because you can work on your sensibility by reading, by attending this, but don't do it for the sake of gathering information. Bring it into your heart. So the phrase that in Tibetan that we translate as practice is Nyamlen or Nyamsu Lempa in Tibetan. Nyamsu Lempa. Nyam is experience. And here it's not like general experience, but you could say spiritual experience. The experience that comes from working with these teachings, that kind of experience. Nyam. Nyamsu Lempa is to take it into your experience. to take what? Take these teachings, okay? Integrate them into your experience. Test it. True or not? Not thinking in the abstract, true or not? But when something turns up, true or not? Is suffering heavy or not? It's as simple as that. I'm really annoyed right now. Is that heavy or not? Is that pleasant or not? Is that natural or not? Hold it long enough. No one needs to teach you. No one needs to tell you. What you're going to do is you get tired of it, you drop it. Then when you drop it, don't check out. When you drop it also now. Is it now? What about now? Is it light or not? Is it a relief or not? That's how we begin to change. Then that is bhavana. That is meditation. Rehabituating, reprogramming, rewiring, so that you have new circuits. So that when the switch is flipped, it goes down. Yeah? It goes down. Circuits of happiness rather than circuits of suffering. Bright rather than heavy, dark. The exercise I want to mention, the meditation, did some of you get a chance to try it? Chapter 1. Any thoughts or complaints? Any interesting things to say or report?
It was a great prompt.
It's a good prompt, yeah. So starting with it says, start with your eyes. Keep them open at the beginning. And then that part about your eyes in your eye socket, and you feel that. And can you kind of feel around there? And you keep a lot of tension up here. We are English speaking people, more specifically. Our language is very visual. It's very visual oriented. And so then we tend to keep tension here around the eyes. So I thought that instruction there, beginning with your eyes, and then sweeping down, right, from the eyes, down backwards, and down the body. So this is a practice of, in the immediate experience, is to help us achieve a certain relaxation, to experience ease with regards to body. And in fact, elsewhere, the Buddha taught, first we learn how to pacify, calm the body. Or as we say in ashram, attend to the inflammation. And so the body is inflamed. Yes, the Buddha also said this. The 5 aggregates are inflamed, burning, burning, burning. And so not only do your whole 30 diet to get rid of inflammation, now you also let your meditation cool down the inflammation of the body. And that inflammation, joking aside, it's because, right, that fight and flight is constantly being triggered. So various exercises like Wim Hof and things like that, and then the cold plunge, all of that is to try to reset that fight or flight that is constant. We have right, most of us have this constant on. But originally it wasn't like this. Originally, only when tigers come, then fight or flight. But then we took care of the tigers. So technology has been great. We took care of all sorts of tigers. But the Buddha says, the three poisons give rise to suffering. So now suffering has to come up in a different way. And for many of us, it's manifesting in this way. An inflamed body as a result of an inflamed mind. So that exercise first is to cool down. Some of us have like negative relationship with the body because again of like cultural religious baggage. We're not comfortable with the body. Then we forget that we are embodied beings. And then as a result of that, we actually go to extremes. Well, we don't have a more natural relationship with this body. So that exercise, I feel, I mean, Ajahn Sucitto doesn't use this language. Again, I don't want to say, I'm his representative, far from. But the way I relate to that set of meditation is that it really helps us to calm the body. When we know how to use the mind, to work with the mind, to allow the body to kind of ease into it, right? Then the mind also becomes bright. Then the mind will more happily stay here than run all over the place. So in the Anapanasati, the foundations of mindfulness and breathing meditation that the Buddha taught, the first 4 steps is how to calm the body. And then the mind can settle into a state of being happy. First, a kind of exciting kind of happy, and then settle into a more stable, happy mind. But again, we're going to stop there. What's the purpose of a happy mind and a relaxed body? So that we have the optimal conditions for rewiring the system, changing. If you beat the body and the mind and say, you have to change, it's not going to work. The Buddha himself, Siddhartha, tried that. And he went the route of torturing body. He went the route of mind over matter to transcend. No. He had great experiences tripping. And he described it, And then when he came down from his trips, I mean, he wasn't doing, drugs or anything, but through meditation, through breath control, probably. Okay? He had these great. But then when he came down, so to say, wait, the problem is still here. That kind of problem requires rewiring. Karma is how to rewire. So next week, let's read chapter 2. And I'll pull out the things that I can speak to because in my own experience or from my own tradition. Yeah? And I'll highlight those points. I think by now you can see that I mean, I'm very happy you came. But I also don't want you to feel like, you're trapped. So by now you can see that maybe you can just read the book yourself. But if circumstances allow you, I'll see you next week. And tonight, please be safe. Careful when you drive home. You might be at home for the next couple of days. Lots of opportunities to go over the book. And all of you out there in other places, we live in the South, okay? So those of you who live in further north in the US, yeah, I know you're laughing at us, but it's all, our situation. So they are predicting maybe a few inches of snow. Yes, that's all. Yes, I know. Yeah. So Anila in Wisconsin, yes. What? We're not equipped for this, so we're all going to hide now and run home and not go anywhere at all. And then I say, doesn't matter that I've lived here almost 30 years, like Malaysian snow driving bad. Bad. So I'm going to stay off the roads and be content at home. So I wish you all a good night and see you next week. You can help us put things away, then we can all go home. Soon after.
What about the question and answer?
Sorry?
Questions answered.
Oh, we'll start with the questions next week, promise.
I'm only joking.
Start like that because we really need to go home because, the Arctic cold is descending on us and we'll all freeze. So. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be safe.